I'm Rip Esselstyn, and you're listening to the PlantStrong podcast. What happens when a health scare and deep personal loss become the spark for a total life transformation? This week, you're going to meet powerhouse health coach Michelle Joy Kramer, who turned her grief into personal growth. That's coming up right after these words from PlantStrong. Let's talk burgers. Most plant-based burgers on store shelves, they're loaded with ultra-processed ingredients, oils, and they're barely recognizable as real food. This is why we created the PlantStrong Skillet Burgers. Come try our black bean and portobello flavors made from 100% whole food ingredients. No oil, no additives, no junk, just real plants, bold flavor, and pantry-friendly pouches that turn into hearty burgers in less than 6 minutes. This is the burger that you thought you were buying all along. Grab a 2-pack at plantstrong.com and stock your pantry with flavor that you can feel good about. I love reconnecting with past PlantStrong retreat attendees and hearing how this lifestyle is unfolding in their lives. Back in 2017, Michelle Joy Kramer joined us at a PlantStrong immersion in Black Mountain, North Carolina. At the time, she was just beginning her whole food plant-based journey, sparked by a serious health event involving her partner and a deeper motivation that was rooted in her father's health struggles and subsequent death. Since then, Michelle has transformed her own life and now coaches high-powered professionals towards better health. In this episode, she shares how she moved from vegetarianism to embrace a fully plant-strong lifestyle and dramatically lowering her cholesterol while navigating the social challenges that come with making such a bold shift. She also shares her tips for coaching these business executives, many of whom are men, and believe me, it's not necessarily what you may think. Here to spread joy and PlantStrong love is Michelle Joy Kramer. Michelle Joy Kramer, welcome to the PlantStrong podcast.
Thank you, Rip Esselstyn.
Yes. Where am I talking to you from today?
You're talking to me from Naples, Florida.
Naples, Florida. Do you like Naples?
Love it.
How long you been there?
I've been here almost 14 years.
Did you guys get hit pretty hard by one of those hurricanes in the last year or two?
Yes, we did.
Yeah. How did your place survive?
Very lucky. No flooding. And we were very lucky last year.
Tell me, Joy. Michelle Joy. I see Joy and I'm like, God, do people ever call you Joy? Is that ever? They do?
They do. My mother, I was the firstborn, so my mother said I was the joy of her life, and she came up with Michelle Joy, and I started using that in my branding actually 15 years ago. And my teacher who started my school, Integrative Nutrition, Joshua Rosenthal, he calls me Joy, and a bunch of my other friends call me Joy. So yes.
Yeah. Well, I have a daughter named Hope, so I see Joy, and it kind of, they run in parallel paths. So if I call you Joy, don't hold it against me.
I love it.
All right. Good.
I feel a lot of joy being here with you, just so you know.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have a joyful time here discussing all the great things you're up to. Tell me about your personal journey to kind of whole food, plant-based nutrition. How did that begin?
Feels like a lifetime ago. It started about 8 years ago, and I was here in Naples, Florida, and my partner, my girlfriend at the time, we were going out for an evening, and all of a sudden her blood pressure went up, and we ended up in the hospital that evening, and she had a heart issue, blockage. And it just happened very quickly. She was in her late 40s, very just surprising. She had lost a lot of weight and made some healthy changes in her life. I wasn't whole food plant-based at the time, and neither was she. And I was always vegetarian, but never whole food plant-based. And it really just, in one moment, I mean, my whole life changed. And she had a couple stents put in, and it ended up being a coincidence that her uncle knows your dad.
Mm.
And so we ended up, after the surgery, we flew to Ohio. We were in your dad's and mom's living room. And I remember your dad saying, "No oil."
Yeah.
I didn't know what he was talking about.
That's right.
And,
No oil
you
in
know,
your car.
no oil. Well, I had so much oil in our house that, MCT oil.
Right.
I'm an Ironman athlete, so the coconut oil, all of that, I thought was really good for me, and just completely changed our diets in a very short period of time.
Okay, so you kind of went down the path initially because of this health scare that your partner had. But tell me about, like, where were you personally on your journey at that time? Were you healthy, unhealthy? What were you like?
Well, I thought I was healthy.
Uh-huh.
I felt great. Nothing was wrong. I had total cholesterol over 200. I thought that was normal. I have a history of heart disease in my family. So it was always a thought for me, but I thought, I'm an athlete. I have low body fat. I feel good. So I thought I was healthy and felt good. Little did I know, and in 3 months from doing the whole food plant-based diet, my cholesterol went from 200 to around 148.
Yeah.
I mean, huge changes. My LDL went down, triglycerides, everything. And that's when I got hooked. And then I started feeling better, recovery quicker. So to answer your question, I always felt good, but I never knew how good I could actually feel. That was the real turning point for me, because I already felt good.
Right. So you went from good to great, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. You didn't know there was any improvement there, but there was. That's great.
Yep.
And your partner at the time, who had the stents put in and kind of was in trouble, was she able to stick with this or not? Do you know?
No.
No. Okay.
She tried. It was really difficult. I think it was a strain on our relationship.
What was? You mean just trying to get her to follow the lifestyle?
Yes, I became militant around it all because I was feeling so good. I saw the results. I saw the results that she had in a few months. We actually went and saw Dr. Delaney, who's a cardiologist in Port Charlotte, a couple hours from us. So she was monitoring her. And we don't have any lifestyle medicine doctors in Naples that are cardiologists. So we drove to Dr. Delaney and had her monitor her. And I remember we got on a call with her maybe 3 months after being on the diet. And my girlfriend saw all the changes. The difficult part was we were traveling and eating out and enjoying the lifestyle. And after we left your dad's house, we were so depressed that we drove to a pizza parlor. We're like, how are we ever going to do this? But we did, and there were results. I just think it was difficult to maintain that lifestyle of so-called fun, eating out all the time, and being on this way of eating.
Yeah.
So,
Well, you've obviously figured it out, because it's been over 8-9 years now that you've been doing this. How do you navigate eating out now that you're a savvy whole food plant-based ninja warrior?
I love that. I don't eat out much. I don't really feel good when I eat out, even if I get things steamed and everything. And I cook a lot at home. And I think, which is what I teach in my practice is as a health coach, is ways to eat on the go. And so, like you as a triathlete, I always like to say people live to eat or they eat to live. And I've always been one to just find quick ways to eat. So for me, food is just fuel. And so I have found ways to find whole food, plant-based nutrition on the go, like your products with PlantStrong. And I call your products actually the hurricane food for Naples because we can grab all the food, order the food and it's ready to go and you can eat it when you have no electricity. So I just have found ways to help people navigate through, that aren't in the kitchen. And that's how I live. So I don't really eat out much because I love to eat at home. I've learned ways to, enjoy my food at home.
Yeah. So let's go back 8 years ago. You had this incident with your partner. What were you doing at the time as a career?
I'm a health coach. I've been a health coach for 15 years.
Okay.
So at that time, I was health coaching at a television station in Miami, WLRN, which is also part of NPR. And so I was teaching and I was also building my one-on-one practice with health coaching. And again, it was more around vegetarian, eggs and fish and lots of oils. So I was health coaching and online as well, built an online practice.
Right. So my understanding from visiting your website and reading up on you is that you now, you run a global private concierge health coaching practice, which is fantastic. I want to dive into a little bit more about that and who your clientele are. But before we do, because in doing my research, I think it really informs where your passions lie right now with who you're coaching. I'd love for you to kind of share with the PlantStrong audience a little bit about your relationship with your father and what happened there.
That's a big one.
Yeah. Well, we like going big.
Oh, of course we do.
Yeah.
So my father committed suicide when I was 9, and he was overweight. He was super successful. He was an attorney. I grew up with my dad and my grandfather, both attorneys. So learned, respected both of them very much. My grandfather passed as well. But with my dad, he was the closest person to me. I was 9 years old, just completely, I always like to say that's what had me become an Iron Man.
Yeah.
Or Iron Woman. It was that I was just driven at 9 years old. I'm the oldest child. I have 2 sisters, one that passed away a year and a half ago. They're identical. They were identical twins. So I kind of became I call it the man of the house. Took care of my mom and my sisters and just had this determination and structure and at such an early age. And that was the way that I went through my grief. I started running probably 2 days after I learned that my father passed away. My best friend in the neighborhood, his brother was a runner. So we went on the track and it was the first time that I felt some relief. And that's where my passion for running began. And it was a way for me to, grieve my father. It was a huge loss for me.
What do you think it was about exercise, running, that was able to temporarily soothe the pain?
I think for me, now that I know the science, I would say endorphins, but I didn't know what endorphins and serotonin and dopamine were back then. So it was kind of having all of those chemicals happening for me in the brain, but also this feeling of freedom, like the wind blowing, being outdoors, the nature. I just felt so good during and after. It became a social thing for me, which I'm now doing as well in running groups as an adult. So it became like the social activity with my friends, but we'd be active and moving. So there's something with that moving and movement. And I would think of my dad when I would run. We did paper routes together when he was living. So I started very early on in the dark. I mean, he'd wake me up out of bed at 5 a.m. I still get up at 4 a.m. now in the mornings.
Yeah.
So there's something about that quiet in the dark and that time alone and that I enjoy.
So was it your paper route that your father was helping you with at 4 a.m.?
Sorry. It could have been his paper route.
Really? So he's an attorney and he also has a newspaper route?
Yes.
Why?
He's, I think towards the end, before he passed, my mother shared with me that he struggled. He struggled in his career towards the end. He struggled being around people. He put on probably 50 pounds. He was overweight when he passed away. Very depressed, lots of depression. So I think towards the end, he was struggling to be out with people. And yeah, so he had a couple jobs to make ends meet.
Got it. Understood. And so from what I read, it sounds like you also suffered with depression for a period of time there and some binge eating. Anything you'd like to say about those things?
Oh, you really read my story. That was actually, that story I put out on my website was a big deal for me to really share myself, with people too. And I would say the binge eating and depression have been a journey. And I've always been involved in something called Landmark. I've been involved with Landmark for 25 years. And I think between that and transcendental meditation that I do and things that I've learned ways each day, certain rituals I like to say manage. I think that's where the diet plays a huge role in the shift that happened 8 years ago with the plant-based. That if I ate, when I used to eat refined sugar, I would feel depressed. And this is something I share with my clients, that I got off refined sugar way before I was plant-based, about 20 years ago. And I was on Prozac and Wellbutrin, and these young clients that hire me, their parents hire me for them, that are on antidepressants today, they're eating refined sugar. And that's the first place I go with people. My depression went away.
Give me an idea. When you say refined sugar and your clients that are on these meds and you get them off refined sugar, what does that look like as far as the food that they're eating? Is it soda? Is it soda pops? Is it bread? Is it sugar in their coffee? What is it?
All of it. All of it. What I do is I add in things for my clients. So I don't take away the sugar. Some clients will say, especially my males, my corporate executives, they'll say, all right, I'm done with the sugar. For my lady clients, it takes a little bit of time for them. It's a little different. Where by adding in things, let's say adding in some grains, adding in refined, let me go back to your question, refined sugar, I mean like white sugar, brown sugar, things like you said that are in bread and things like that, candy, it could be anything. But when I add in things, whether it's even just drinking more water, people are so dehydrated today. I'm always amazed. Somebody new will come to me and they're drinking, 8 ounces of water. That's all they're drinking all day long. Right. Yeah. 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 And coffee doesn't count as water. So. All
right. I really want to dive into your coaching, but not yet. So we're going to hold off on that. I want to know a little bit more because you witnessed something on probably CBS Wide World of Sports the same time that I did. And it really influenced you to want to do an Ironman triathlon. And that is, you saw Julie Moss basically crawling to the finish line of the Ironman World Championships. I think it was in 1982. And it was pretty darn powerful. And you saw that while smoking a cigarette, and you're like, I'm going to do that one day.
Yes.
What
I did.
What do you think it was that gripped you and made you want to go for that?
I could start crying. I'm still like emotional. I'm a crier, by the way.
We like I like it. It's a sign of strength.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I was living in New York. I remember I was standing watching on television with my cigarette, and I was just staring and blown away by these women, and they're crawling to this finish line. And at that time, I was doing 5K runs, smoker, didn't swim, didn't own a bike. And I just watched, and I'm like, I don't even know what came over me. I wanted to do it. And I ended up moving. I left New York. I went home where my mom was living at the time in Juno Beach, Florida. And I hired a coach, and he believed in me. And I'll let you ask if you have other questions. But the story began there, and that was the beginning.
So what year was that? Because we might be confusing. You might have saw Jan Ripple that was crawling across the finish line. Because for me, and I'm about probably 13 years older than you are. I'm 62. So for me, it was 1981. But for you, do you remember what year it was that you saw this?
It was Julie Moss.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. So what year was that you said?
81. 1981.
I wonder if it was like, you know how sometimes they show like replays of things?
Yes.
On Ironman. So I don't know if it was a replay, because I moved to Juno Beach in 2000. So I'd say I was watching that around 1998.
Okay.
So maybe it was kind of a caption on one of the Ironmans.
Yeah, for sure.
Where they,
Yeah, because you weren't smoking a cigarette at the age of 9 or 10.
No. No.
Right. Well, it's funny. For me, it wasn't Julie Moss crawling across the finish line that captured my attention. What for me was, along with that same broadcast, they showed Dave Scott, who was finishing up this marathon in the 110-degree heat on the Big Island of Hawaii. And this guy looked like an Adonis, and he looked like a racehorse. And I was like, wow, I want to be like that.
Yes. I remember him.
Yeah. Total stud.
Oh my God. He was big time back then.
Yeah. So you started doing, training for the triathlons. You were successful competing the Ironman in Hawaii, which is no small task. And then you started getting adrenal fatigue and digestive issues, and you sought out a chiropractor who basically helped you turn the ship around a little bit.
Yes.
What did he or she say to you that was able to get you down a healthier path?
So I had just finished Hawaii. I think it was 2000. Well, it was 2003. And I went and saw Dr. Sullivan, who's still in Jupiter, Florida. And I had seen her, but I finally, after Hawaii, I just said, I just don't feel good. I was 14% body fat. I looked the part, the whole thing. And underneath, I just was tired all the time. I knew I was overtraining, but I couldn't stop, And I thought 100-mile bike ride a day and 10-mile run is normal for me, So she said, I think you have adrenal fatigue, and also I was addicted to artificial sweeteners. I was addicted to sugar. I was still doing all this during Hawaii. And she said, let's cut out wheat, dairy, and sugar. Those were the three things. I had a wheat allergy that I wasn't aware of.
Mhm.
and my inflammation went down. It was very difficult. It was about 3 months of like withdrawal. That's what it felt like.
Mhm.
And I had already quit smoking, so I wasn't smoking anymore. That was just kind of a closet thing I was doing on the side.
Mhm.
Um, but God, I felt so much better after. And then I packed up the Ironman training, and I said, I'm going to go back to school and help people.
Hmm.
And that was the beginning. I couldn't believe the difference. I started feeling better. And this was obviously way before the whole food plant-based.
So well, first let me just say congratulations, and I know, because I've been there myself, that you can get so wrapped up into the triathlons, being an Ironman or Iron Woman triathlete, and you so self-identify with that part, and people are so impressed. And the reality is, and I'm sure that you talk about this in your coaching, because you try and have your clients have a well-balanced life, but there's nothing about doing an Ironman or training for an Ironman triathlon that is well-balanced.
No.
I mean, things are going to be out of order, out of place, whether it's your career that's going to suffer, your relationships that are going to suffer, like you said, major fatigue, because what do you think is going to happen when you're training 5 to 7
Right.
hours a day? I mean, it's really hard for the body to keep up. And I did a really fantastic podcast with Carrie, with a guy named Brad Kearns, who wrote a book called Born to Walk, with a guy named Mark Sisson. And it challenges, and it's very, very disruptive, this whole notion of, running and the endurance training that so many people are getting kind of hooked on these days. And then you become this obligate runner or triathlete. And if you don't get your run in, or your swim in, or your bike in, you feel like you're a failure. It's just
Right. It's a cycle. I do want to go back to one thing you asked me.
Yeah.
Because it really was my stepfather who, when I watched Julie crawl to the finish line, my stepfather, I went back when I moved back home, and there was in the newspaper this father and 3 sons, the Rebacks, and they're still doing a lot of triathlons. And I saw their picture, and it said Ironman Hawaii, and it just kind of things started coming together. And that's when I hired my coach, Marty. And my stepfather, I said, I want to do this. And he goes, oh, you'll never be able to do this. Well, the minute he said that, that really, as the oldest child, got me going. I thought, I'm going to show him. And that was where nothing stopped me. It was just one of those, something clicked in my head. It was like, let me prove something. So that he's actually, we laugh about it. He's a gift in my life.
Yeah.
That was kind of the straw of like someone telling me I can't do something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. So you've got a lot of accreditations. I know you became a nutrition health coach, and you got your degree with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. Is that where you kind of studied over 100 different kind of dietary methodologies?
Yes, that was the beginning for me. And it was great because we had all different teachers. Colin Campbell came, Deepak Chopra. So all different types of teachers that would teach about their dietary theories. Mm-hmm. And then it was great because you'd have a vegetarian teacher one day, and then 5 love languages another day, and then Ayurvedic medicine. So I got a real broad blend of so many dietary theories to be able to really take on anyone and, meet them where they are with their diet and lifestyle. So I started there.
Yeah. When did you take that course?
I took that course in 2010.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you, so it sounds like, so are they agnostic as far as trying to recommend a particular way of eating? They just basically want to share and have you learn a broad spectrum and then you decide? What is their philosophy?
Their philosophy is every body is different and it's a bio-individuality. So everybody's different. Their upbringing's different. Their blood type's different. Their doshas are different with Ayurvedic medicine. So it gave us, as health coaches, just kind of this broad spectrum of each person. So if you came to me and you said, I'm really struggling and I can't seem to get up and go to the gym, I would have you, I give clients a lot of quizzes, which I've learned in school. I'd have you go through the 8 colors of fitness. My dear friend Suzanne Brew wrote, and I'd have you take a quiz that takes 5 minutes and we'll figure out your color fitness. And then, I share with you why, what are the barriers and what are some tips that would help you. Maybe as a purple, you don't like the gym, but as a silver, you do. So it's kind of giving people permission to be okay with who they are, and they don't have to be like their friend Sue, So there's no, plant-based is the way. I didn't learn that in school. I learned science with each dietary theory. And I like to say everyone's right. I mean, that's how I left school, that everyone's theory is right. It wasn't until 8 years ago that my niche and passion really came with whole food plant-based nutrition. And then my studies expanded from there.
Wonderful. All right, let's talk about your coaching business, because I think it's fascinating.
Thank you.
So tell the PlantStrong audience, what is your niche? Like you probably work with all kinds of individuals, but like, where do you feel like your specialty lies?
Get ready.
We're bracing.
Corporate executive men.
Incredible. And so why, how did that end up being the case?
It really started when I started working at the television station in Miami. This brave soul, the general manager, hired me for basically the team there. And I did some coaching for the staff. And then I took him on. And he's on my website, John Labonia. And he lost over 60 pounds with me. He was a meat and potatoes man. Back then, like I mentioned, I taught more vegetarian. And we ended up all training for the Mercedes-Benz corporate run. So it really started with John. And then from there, it kind of moved after that. I had men and women I was coaching at the station, but then I ended up getting, a few women one-on-one coaching clients in Naples. And then I had one gentleman come down from Los Angeles who was just here this weekend. He's been with me about 8 years now.
Wow. That says a lot about, about your, I think not only your coaching, but your ability to kind of really connect with somebody.
Well, thank you. And actually, I still speak with John Labonia. He's kept his weight off. I think he lost a total of 60 pounds now. I keep sending more plant-based things to him, by text and stuff from the state TV station. But yeah, so Amir, who's also on my website, he was here this weekend, and he, he's just one of my favorite clients. He ended up telling all his friends back home when he had his results. I have a team. I have about four people on my team, and we do heart rate conditioning. So we work with Garmin. And so we ended up training Amir and his team in his business for a bike race, and they all had great results. And it just started moving in that direction with his friends. So
yeah, well, and because I've read your story, and because you've shared what happened with your father, you also feel like this is also a very healing process for you as well. being able to coach some of these, high-powered executive men that are probably in certain aspects of their life, a mess, right? Especially their health, I would imagine. And how gratifying that must be.
It really is. It's really gratifying to have somebody contact me and say, look, I want to drop 80 pounds. I don't feel good, super successful, in their family, personal life, and business. And yeah, their health. I think part of it for a lot of my clients, they don't really, we look together, I call it under the hood of the car, really of what the blood work's showing, where their hormone levels are. Like there's so much to it. And it takes about a year working with me minimum. And then people go on a maintenance plan once they lose the weight. But it is so rewarding to see somebody drop 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30 pounds. I mean, we've had up to 100 pounds as you've seen, with your clients and customers. And it is so rewarding. I jump out of bed every day. Love what I do, especially now that I'm plant-based. And it's such a humbling career. And I do think of my dad, every day, because my dad was so heavy as I mentioned, when he passed. And I remember he'd be in these dark rooms, even though he'd be out in the world, but then he'd come home and eat at night and just be ashamed that he's eating and hide it. And I've been there, myself. So it's great to work through all that with these gentlemen and even my female clients. So
what do you think it is about you and your personality and your approach, your methodology, that makes you a successful coach? This is your chance to brag on yourself.
That's not easy for me.
Well, but you always say, got to get out of your comfort zone. Let's do it.
I'm here with you today. Of course I am. I like to, I was telling a couple health coaches last week, I'm mentoring one specifically at Lululemon because I'm partnering with them this year. And I said, let's get you your first client. I said, but let me teach you first and I'm going to help her. I said, you got to pretend like you're putting a piece of tape over your mouth when you coach. And so I would say I listen actively. More than talk. I don't give advice. And I really hear my clients. I really hear their struggle, what they're dealing with, just letting them vent, getting it out. They don't need me for a diet. They don't need me I can give them your book and they're good to go, or a PDF of something. But it's really just having someone to listen for an hour of what they're dealing with. And then they feel better and then they don't go eat the Oreos at night.
Yeah. You, when you started out, you mentioned that there was a book that kind of inspired you, and you use it now with some of your male clients, along with another one. What are those two books?
This is where you get to brag. So my first book is your book.
My Beef with Meat. Wow.
Yes. Yep. And this one, because the biggest challenge for all of my clients is getting off of meat, chicken especially. But, this has been for me too. I'm an O blood type. Again, going back to the blood types, which I learned in school. I'm a hunter-gatherer, so I really need kind of that feeling of a lot of beans or a lot of tofu or tempeh or just things that feel like I'm eating chicken. So I have found this book really helpful. And then also, this is my favorite, who I met at my first retreat, at your PlantStrong retreat in 2017.
Aaron Spitz.
Yep. So these are the two books that I recommend.
You mentioned, I want to go back to something you mentioned a couple minutes ago, that you work with Garmin, or your clients, maybe you have them wear Garmin, and that way you can monitor their sleep, their exercise, their heart rates, all their vitals. How important have you found that to be as you're coaching these men and women? That relationship with Garmin.
Extremely,
Yeah.
extremely important. I used to wear Garmin myself when I was racing, so I love their products. I'm now moving in the direction with them with Garmin Health, which is another division, and more around the health aspect, especially with whole food plant-based nutrition and how that really changes, our heart rate, lower, higher, all of it. And but we use the Garmin watches, we use the scale, and now blood pressure cuff, which is interesting that I've gotten to see over the last 15 years being in practice, because I have two brothers that are with me in my company, and one of them, Yarrow, who's my right-hand man. He's been with me for 9 years. So he writes the heart rate programs for our clients. We use Training Peaks as our platform, and then we use Garmin, the products. And it's great because our clients can't hide. We see everything. So if they didn't get a workout in, we know, or they did, we know. And so we're every day in communication with our clients. We take on a certain amount of people per year. And we see their scale and, their weight. What we do each month is we pull reports for their doctors as well, if they want that. But we go over it with our clients so they can see the changes in real time. And so it's made a huge difference because, people lose weight and they feel good and you can see it. But when they can really, aside from blood work, and see the changes, and you can see the changes in the data, it makes a huge difference. It's accountable. They're accountable.
Do you also have them keep a food log? And if so, through what app or what methodology do you use?
We don't.
Okay.
No food log.
That sounds very intentional.
No food log, no counting calories. For our clientele, I said to a client this morning, we know our clients don't even have a minute to go to the bathroom. So we help them find ways to, order the food for them, whatever they need, ship it to them, help them just get their workout in. They have family, careers. So they're not going to sit there and be journaling. We tried it for a few years in the beginning, and it just, I don't even keep a food log. So I try and bring what I do and what Yarrow does and, what works for us. And it's worked really well because our clients don't want to write down everything.
Well, let me ask you this. Because I agree. Once you get the hang of it, absolutely. But I find that so many people, especially in the beginning, they think they know how to do it right, and they're not. They're just slipping up left, right, and center. And so to me, I find it's a nice way to kind of course correct along the way, especially the first couple months. What about taking a quick photo and just like sending off a photo as a text? No, you don't want them to mess with that either?
Well, what we do is, I do a revisit form every week. So our clients, I'll meet with a client once, 1 hour each week. And so I will have them fill out a revisit form, which on the revisit form, it's a 1-pager. It has breakfast, lunch, dinner, and they will fill that out. I won't say every week they do, but if they don't, I have one printed ready to go and I help them, I'll talk it through with them.
Yeah.
So I do it that way. Now, pictures, we do have our clients take pictures. I have to remind them, like, take a picture of your dinner tonight. They're not ones that are like thinking about, let me take a picture.
Right.
Our client, they have 2 phones, they're on the airplane, their kids are calling, their team needs them, whatever's going on.
I get it. So these are high-powered executives. How do you deal with these huge egos?
I think I've only had one ego in 15 years. I don't really attract clients that have these big egos. I don't know if it's because they were heavy and they've been so uncomfortable and have gone through so much in their life, whether people make fun of them or they've had so many struggles. They don't have the ego yet. And even after they lose all the weight, they're still really down to earth people. So I've only had like one lady who, came across like, one of these people that they want to be smarter than you. And that's okay. I just say, yeah, you know more than me. That's fine. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
But I've been very fortunate to attract a certain type of client that, I think a big part is they've struggled for so long with not feeling good that they don't have it. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And what percent of your clients would you say have come through word of mouth?
99%.
Right. Well, it's the best kind, right?
Yeah.
You use the Garmin for heart rate. What have you found? Because it sounds like a lot of your clients, they're whining and dining, they're entertaining clients. I would imagine alcohol typically seems to fit into that lifestyle. And I don't do alcohol, haven't for a long time, but I know people that do. It messes with their sleep. It messes with their resting heart rate when they wake up in the morning. Have you found that to be the case? And do you try and dissuade them from doing alcohol?
Yes, most of them drink. They want to stop, so I work with them to help them with that. Yes, it disrupts everything: their mood, their sleep, the way they're eating, everything. Their sex life, erectile dysfunction, and so I don't drink either. I might have one. I tell myself you can have one a year because it really affects me, but I usually don't end up having it. And I know for me, if I do have one drink, I get night sweats or I just don't feel good. So I work with my clients. I'm not very strict with my clients, and I think that's one of the things that has made me successful. I would tell you that, but to answer your question with alcohol, I really try and have my clients completely get off alcohol.
Yep.
Do they here and there? I have one client who's been with me, I think 7 years now, and he's been sober. He just celebrated 6 years. And I went to his first AA meeting with him in Los Angeles. And I'm just so proud of him. He's stayed with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a poison. We know that, right?
Yeah. It's every organ in the body.
Yeah.
So you say that being healthy is all about lifestyle choices around nutrition, which I feel like we've talked about, exercise, relationships, careers, and then spirituality. So that's kind of a branch of this wheel or a pillar of it that I'd love for you to tell me about. What are your thoughts and your beliefs when it comes to spirituality?
So I grew up Jewish and I went to Hebrew school and I went to high school in Israel, and I don't practice Judaism today, but it was something that in my early years, it really set a wonderful foundation for me. And I think later on in life, I started moving into more of I would try meditation here and there, but it was more of I went to Thailand, and so the Buddhist and all of that. But for spirituality, for me today is just taking time for myself. And this is something with self-care that I teach my clients. I think for my clients, it's if they have getting a massage is spirituality. It might sound kind of funny, but just having care time, going out for a walk. And I would say that's more the spirituality piece. And then I bring in transcendental meditation, which I've been doing since 2017. And I have my clients go through TM, and I work with teachers all over the country. And it's such a simple practice that it's something I just started with a new client last week in Michigan, and she's already gone through TM, and it's designed for very busy, stressful people. So it's very simple. You just close your eyes, you have your mantra, and it's easy. There's nothing, no app, there's nothing to do. They have an app, but I try and find simple things for people to get in touch with their spirituality. And that's TM is part of that.
Yeah, I like that. And it's amazing how many people I've come into contact with lately that tell me that they try and meditate, right? And half an hour when they wake up and half an hour before they go to bed, and how it's just been a game changer for them. Yeah. And I still haven't.
I was going to say, do you meditate?
My meditation is usually in motion when I'm swimming or when I'm out for a walk, or usually it's movement. It's not sitting still, which I need to do. I really don't have too many excuses except, 3 young kids, a wife, career. And normally the thought of getting an extra half an hour of sleep is really nice.
I think you'd enjoy TM.
Yeah. I do too. I need to like commit to it.
I'll support you in that.
Okay, good. Thank you. So tell me, when you're bringing on a new client, do you let them know that, okay, this is how things are going to work, and we're going to focus on these 5 aspects of your life? Like, do you say nutrition? Do you say, I want you to start leaning into whole food, plant-based. I want you to start exercising 30 minutes a day. I want you to start meditating. How does that work?
I'm laughing because I had a client who was referred to me from another client, and he goes, I want to hire you. I want the results my friend had, but I'm not going vegan.
Okay. Yeah.
So I said, okay, well, just know we are going to move in that direction. Are you okay with that? And we'll go slow, because it will be, it's about whole foods. And then he was like, oh, okay.
Right.
So, I guess to answer your question, it depends. Everybody's different. And I have something called the circle of life that I use, that I show different areas like you talked about. And we'll go through that, and I'll have them take a test, a little quiz thing, which I mentioned I do a lot of. But again, everyone is coming from so many different avenues when they start with me. Mm-hmm. The direction and the structure in the beginning is to get them a Garmin watch and get them a scale. So we have the tracking. So we always start there. They do before and after photos. I'll have them fill out a health history form. So we have the background and a physical activity form for my guys to be able to start putting their program together with Training Peaks. So there is a system. I would say for someone that comes to us with severe heart disease, I'm going to ship them your dad's book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, which I studied with your dad, his program last year, which I was so excited about. Yeah. And so it depends on the severity and what they're coming to us for. If they want to get off 7 medications, I'm going to say, look, before you hire me, we're going to go whole food, plant-based, no salt, oil, sugar. It's going to be strict. Can you do it? Because that's where you're going to get the results. And they'll say yes or no. So it's a small percentage of people that we work with that do whole food, plant-based.
Yeah. Let's say you're working with somebody and they have an awful week. They've fallen off the rails. They don't do anything quite right. What do you do to kind of get them back on track?
I'll listen. I'll say what's going on. Yeah. What's going on at home? What's going on with your wife? What's going on with the kids? What's going on at work? What are you stressed about? Did you meditate last night? Did you meditate this morning? Did you drink water? I'm a big juicer. I work also with Hippocrates in West Palm Beach. So I love green juice. So I find green juice companies all over, different locations for them. And I'll just go down the list of things. How was your sleep last night? Did you drink alcohol? Did you take a sleeping pill? I ask all the questions very quickly to get to quickly what's going on. Did you eat a lot of sugar last night? And I could we know in a second, and they know. My clients know their bodies better than I do. So I'll say, what do you think it is? What's going on?
It almost sounds like, so we've got 3 electric cars, and every one of them, you can go in and see where the car is at any point in the day, if they're driving, where they are, where they're parked. It almost seems like a little bit of an invasion, right?
Sounds like a Tesla.
Well, there's many that have that capability, but it sounds like you have that same, like, you have the inside track into what's going on with these men and women, which is it's great.
Thank you.
Let me ask you.
And I know because I was there,
right?
Personally.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. This is so many of these. Let's just right now segment this into the high-powered executive men that you're dealing with, and for any of the listeners that also are the women that are married to a high-powered executive male, or vice versa. But how important is it for you to connect with that spouse so that it's kind of a team effort?
It's funny. Usually the wives will call me, we need you for my husband. So that's usually the word of mouth. Usually if it's not a friend of a friend, a gentleman and his friend, it's usually a wife will call me and say, I need you for my husband. He's a mess. But to answer your question, I don't interact with the spouses. I will give my client, I might say, is it okay if I get your wife's email or your partner's email and send them some recipes for them to cook, or the chef or somebody, maybe from that perspective, if they're cooking. But as far as, it's interesting, I actually coach the men to be, I don't like to use the word better, but hey, do you know your wife's love language? Is it acts of service? Is it, physical touch? What is it? And I might have him go take a quiz with her. So I'm always like in the relationship area, finding ways for them to connect with their spouses, with their wives, more than it's something she's doing over there. Yeah. It's really about the guy and his body and how he's relating to his partner. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. What's the most difficult thing about being a health coach?
Probably with the whole food plant-based diet, I know it works. And sitting back when someone's not ready to go there fully and giving them the time to get there or not get there, that's probably the hardest part because I live it. And I'll be 50 years old in July. No meds, no Botox, nothing. Nothing.
That face.
I don't even think I have a filter. I may have a tiny one on here. But no. And my mom worked for a dermatologist, so I was never in the sun. Even when I raced, I always did things at night or early in the morning. But I wish when I was an Ironman, I wish I was plant-based. I probably would have gone professional. Yeah. And I feel 20 years younger at my age. I just can't even believe the difference. So that's probably the hardest part when people are on keto and not ready and just sitting back until they are. Right.
What's the best thing about being a health coach?
The best thing about being a health coach, That's a great question. There's so many. I think just the connection that I have with my clients. Um, it's like a professional family. They allow me into their lives.
Mm.
Everything they're dealing with and who they are, and they're just meeting me and they're just telling me their whole life story. And there's so much compassion, and I feel so honored, that they're letting me in their life. And so that's probably the biggest thing for me.
Yeah. Well, one of your great success stories just happened to be, if I'm not mistaken, your own mother, right?
Oh God, she drives me crazy. And I love her.
Yeah. Yeah. Victoria.
Yes, Victoria. She'll be
Yeah.
so happy you mentioned her name.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like she's crushing it.
She is. And it really has. I'm so proud of her. She's been whole food plant-based for 8 years now, or 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
She's stayed with it. It's brought a different level of a relationship with us. I feel like she's my health coach sometimes. She's always showing me new things and giving me things, but she's a big fan of your food. And I remember when your burgers came out, she shipped me all these burgers. She was so excited before I even knew. So I'm really proud of my mom at her age. She's 76, and she had some blockage. It went away. She got off Synthroid. I mean, all these doctors told her it's her age. And I'm like, no, Mom, just trust me. Give me a year. We're going to do this together. And she did. So.
Do you have a coach in your life?
Oh, God, yeah. So many. Yes, I've always had a coach. Yarrow, who works with me, is my coach. He trains me I pay him just like a client. And I'm going to hire my personal trainer here in town and get back into strength training. So I have him, David. I have a business coach. I have a coach from Landmark. I have a mentor, Michelle, who's been my mentor 25 years. So I have a lot of people around me, and I feel like that's really what got me interested in becoming a coach. I never would have made or completed Ironman Hawaii, my first time doing Ironman Florida, without an incredible coach. So, Do you have a coach?
I don't.
Oh, I'd love to coach you.
I need 5 or 6.
How about just for TM?
Right. You mentioned 3 things that are, I think, important. 1 is courageous action. 2 is to have a support team. And 3 is never give up. You do those 3 things, you can do almost anything. And I couldn't agree with you more. But what do you mean by courageous action? Give me an example.
Having that phone call that you're afraid to have and you've been putting off. Having the conversation that you're putting off or procrastinating that you haven't had in 10 years with your wife. Something you've been hiding, or something you're ashamed of, or something you're not happy with and you're afraid to say, some type of communication. Buying a pair of running shoes and you're 80 pounds overweight and you go to the running store and you buy a pair of shoes and you get outside. That's a courageous action. Going and getting your first colonic, which I'm a big fan of. Having, sending my clients to different wellness centers to have a colonic. That's a big deal. No one wants to talk about it. It's like, the penis book. No one wants to talk about that. But these are things that healed my IBS, 20 years ago, colon hydrotherapy. So it's part of my practice. I bring it up. So these are courageous actions that are not comfortable, but you take action anyways, that is going to bring you greater health and vitality.
You have.
Did I lose you at colonic?
No. No, it's hard to lose me.
I
Uh,
know.
yeah. I like, and I don't know who you said this to, but you told it to somebody. Maybe it was your mother, maybe it's one of your clients. You said, you're not going to fit in, you're going to fit out. Because they're like, oh, I bet I'm not going to fit in. And you're like, oh, that's okay. You're going to fit out. Maybe until you fit in. But
Yeah.
what did you mean by that exactly?
I actually first heard that line from my dear friend and mentor who started at my nutrition school, Joshua Rosenthal.
Yeah.
And that was his tagline in school. Like, it's okay that so many of you feel like you don't fit in. And I've always felt like I never fit in. I was always one of these, even as a kid, um, running at 9 years old. And then I came out to my family as a gay woman when I was 18, which was a huge deal. Nice Jewish girl. I didn't know any gay people. I just shared with my mom and was very scared. That was a courageous act. And then, moving into this direction with being an Ironman, I feel like that was fitting out. Who's doing that? And then going whole food plant-based. I mean, this has probably been the one big thing for me of fitting out. It's such a small percentage that are eating this way in SOS, no salt, oil, and sugar.
Yeah. Well, you know what I love about all that, I think the most is that you talk about how important it is to have an authentic relationship with yourself. And I think by establishing an authentic relationship with yourself, you can then have these amazing, strong relationships with others. But it really does start with yourself. And I read that in your story. You talk about that. So, I mean, kudos to you.
Thank you. I know I'm following you. You read everything.
Well,
And
yeah.
it's not an easy journey, to get to that place to be authentic. And I probably would not have shared all this with you, 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really been a lot of work on myself, and that's the spirituality part, to get here, be able to say this on national television.
That's right. National Podcast
our,
Radio.
our new version.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Joy, I'm going to call you Joy here. Is there anything that you would like to say before we wrap this up? I just let me say that it's been such a joy reading up on you, getting to know about your journey, your authentic self that is kind of now moving through this world and helping people through your incredible coaching practice. And I love the fact that you're helping men who seem to be the most obstinate and stubborn when it comes to making these changes. And you have such an amazing presence and calmness and equanimity about you that it's easy for me to understand why your practice is thriving and why these powerful men are so attracted to your style.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do want to say how excited I am to be here with you. And I also want to say that when I first met you in 2017, it was in North Carolina at your retreat. And it was actually a birthday gift from my partner at the time. She said, "What do you want? Anything in the world?" And I said, "To go to Rip Esselstyn's retreat."
Yeah.
And I went, and I remember meeting you. I'd sent some pictures to Carrie from back in the day. And I'm very inspired by you, the fact that your background and everything you've done and everything you're doing. And, I just want you to know it's such an honor to be here with you today. I'm constantly sharing your products and your books and just who you are as a man in the world. It's not a lot of convincing because I'll say, take Rip's book, get on this website. This is my coaching talk.
Yeah.
And they do. And because you're a triathlete, I'm like, he's a triathlete. He was a firefighter. Like, they relate to you. So I want to thank you for what you're doing in the world. You've made a huge difference in my life, my mom's life, and my clients. So you're doing amazing work.
Mm.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah. Well, it's very nice of you to say all that. Yes, I very much appreciate it. And Joy, that was really, really kind of you. Thank you for those nice words. I have so enjoyed spending the last hour with you and getting to know you. And you're my PlantStrong sister.
Thank you. I look forward to doing future things with you.
Yeah.
And I am going to follow up with you about TM. Don't think I'm a coach.
Okay. All right. You do that. Hey, can we finish with a virtual PlantStrong fist bump?
Yes. There
Yeah,
we
get it up there. I can't see it. There it is. Bam.
Maybe I should bring the Garmin in since we're
Yeah.
Ironman.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. All right. Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
For more information on Michelle and her coaching practice, visit michellejoykramer.com. I so appreciate her approach to coaching and habit change with all of her clients. Start small and then develop sustainable habits, and never underestimate the power of a mindfulness practice. Real change is possible with the right mindset, support, and of course, PlantStrong Plate. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, always keep it PlantStrong. The PlantStrong podcast team includes Carrie Barrett, Lori Kordowich, and Amy Mackey. If you like what you hear, do us a favor and share the show with your friends and loved ones. You can always leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And while you're there, make sure to hit that follow button so that you never miss an episode. As always, this and every episode is dedicated to my parents, Dr. Caldwell B. Esselstyn Jr. and Ann Cryle Esselstyn. Thanks so much for listening.